It's a real show. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to my friend Commander Cobra, who is guest hosting today. It's so great to have you here, man. I'm so glad you were able
Thank
to
you
make
so
it.
much for inviting. It's a real privilege.
It was so tight on your schedule that you weren't sure you were going to make it. When I got that email, I was like, oh man, it's awesome. He's going to be able to be there.
Yeah, this is like the last day of availability, probably till December.
God. Well, I'm glad I got you for the year. Your one appearance for the year. But of course, love of my life, Anima Confusa is here. Martina Costa Santana is here. And Das Wölfin is here. Das Wölfin, would you like to touch my monkey?
Nine.
We haven't
had that one in months.
By the way, we were watching part 2 of the 3-part docu-series on Arnold Schwarzenegger today. Anima and I were, and during it, there's a quick cut of him speaking German. And it's almost like he's tongue-tied when he speaks German. It's really weird sounding.
He's trying very hard to speak like High German and not dialect, but it comes through.
Yeah, he can't shut it off. Yeah, he can't hide it. And that's why when he offered to do the to speak
he's
German on the German-speaking countries of his films, they were like, no, that's okay. We're good. We got a guy.
Austrians would have been fine with it, but Germans are not fine with Austrian dialects.
Yeah, so it was funny. He's got a farmer's dialect, is really what he's got, what it's referred to. Like here in the U.S., hillbilly, country bumpkin, he's from the country, and he's got that kind of accent. And so, like Anima, who's from Vienna, she's like she speaks High German, and which is better than what Germans speak, because German is it's one of the ugliest languages.
German.
Well, you speak Austrian German, which sounds pretty when you speak it. If you hear somebody speaking German from Germany, it's ugly and blunt and just. I told you when we first met, I think German's a very ugly language, and then like not Viennese, and I went, okay, let's hear it. And then she did it and went, yeah, that's nice.
You asked me if I was
smart move.
German.
Yeah, she was right. I admit it.
So, like good policy.
It is always agree with the woman you love.
But I came on the show for the first time and I said hi, and immediately he fires the question, "Are you German?" at me, and I was, "Yeah, fuck you, I'm not German."
Well, I make fun of it. It's like I refer to her as Germans just to fuck with her, and she goes, "I'm not German, I'm Austrian." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. What language do you speak?" And then she goes, "Fuck you." German. It's still German. But and then I also poke her leg. I said, "Well, Austria gave us one of the worst human beings on the planet back in the 30s. Austria's got that going for it." There she goes. She left me. You see, Commander, I've told you I'm a dick.
Yeah, that's probably a
shark.
That's kind of probably the pin on a grenade I wouldn't have pulled. But
you wouldn't have pulled.
That's you,
but
Gerry.
I can't help it. Okay, just to show you how weird I am, I actually stuck this much of my eyes over the center, the not center block, but the concrete wall, throwing live grenades. And I said, I threw it far enough. It's not going to hit me. I knew that. Fucking grabbed me by both hands and pulled me down.
Yeah. So could you show me how much of your eyes you were looking with?
This much.
Yeah. Yeah. Does your thumb and index finger divider also cover the top of your head that was above the wall?
Oh, I had my Kevlar on.
Oh yeah, that's
I had my Kevlar down like that high.
Yeah, I hope you had a ball cap underneath the Kevlar and tinfoil on it. You were covered. Yeah. What was I thinking? What could go wrong?
I don't think that Kevlar stopped shrapnel like that.
Yeah, especially on the face part where
where
it's got that big cutout so your eyes can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just I've done things that were dumb, just because I was curious. I'm curious. That's why they call me Mittens or Whiskers. So hey, we've got some people in the chat right now. We've got Deleted Scenes is here. My buddy Stephen. Admiral Tig is here. Live long and prosper, my friend. John Ostains is here. He's a big KGRF fan. I imagine he's probably watched your show, Commander Cobra.
He is. John's a good man.
Yes, he is. And let's see. Penny is here. She is probably one of the most devoted people to us, and we deeply appreciate it. She is so awesome. Christian Delorme is here. What is that? What is that? Vinyl Revival. Speaking of, because I know he's not watching the show, Scott's Christmas gift this year is a new record player because he just bought an entire collection of Stevie Nicks on vinyl. I'm like, you need a record player. You can't just buy vinyl and not have something to play it on. So let's see. Cam's Crash Courses is here. And let's see who else is here. Lady V Elements is here. What's up, Lady V? And Dad Man Walking.
Hey, Dad Man.
What is going on, guys? And I did see, I think it was John Osteen said something about guests. We have a guest host today, which is Commander Cobra. But our interview with Dale Dye was recorded because I wouldn't want to wake him up this early unless it's like a job. And he's in the same time zone as me. So, I mean, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But I really wanted to just do that and make sure that we had it scheduled to be able to do it. And so we're going to play the interview for the second half of the show. First half of the show, we're going to go ahead and start the slideshow. And Martin got that all set up for us here. Oh, and it's got the right logo on it. Good job, Martin. Who is the youngster pretending to be Dust Wolfen? I know, he looks like a kid now. He shaved off his goatee. He's lost so much weight. It's like a whole different person. But this is the movie Firebirds, and by the way, we've got an actual pilot here, and he doesn't just fly helicopters; he also flies planes now, and which is really cool. It's a different kind of aviation. It's one's based on what's it called Dragon. Oh, forgot that. You do it. You're a pilot.
Okay, what are you trying to say? Yeah, all aircraft that bend air fly the same way. You make lift to oppose your
lift
weight.
versus drag. There you go. Lift versus drag.
Lift to oppose your weight, and then thrust to oppose your drag.
Yeah, and the whole thing with moving a helicopter forward is the blade tilt forward. So you're
in general, forward. That's correct.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you want to take that. If you think of a big arrow coming off the top of the rotor blades, there, you will tilt forward to split some of that lift forward. To start moving forward, and what will happen then is some of the efficiency will come up on the main rotor plane there, and you'll be able to accelerate. And of course, the Apache is a very, very fast helicopter.
Yeah, it is. And one thing I was because I know what the Cobras were like because we had them on one of the operations we went on in Central America. And we got some hot brass dropped on us, and that was interesting. But I don't think. How did they dispose of the rounds as they're fired off?
Well, that's got a 20 millimeter on it as well.
So it doesn't drop the brass, does it?
It does. It does.
It still does. Okay.
Yeah. Most helicopters like to get rid of the brass because it's weight. So you're looking, and even that can be a significant amount of weight that you can reduce. It also has a lot to do with the CG. The case of the A-10 is the aircraft that didn't have a belt that had a feeding line. That the A-10 kept its shell casings.
Right. Now, going for because they open up, they're flying Cobras at the beginning here. These aren't Apaches.
Right.
Apaches come later. And I told you when I tested on my ASVABs, I was set up to take my second set. They wanted me to be I couldn't be a fighter pilot. Wasn't smart enough, but I was smart enough to be a helicopter pilot. And they wanted to put
I doubt that. And I would say anybody who flies a helicopter could fly a fighter.
That's what I said. I'm like going, it's a completely different way of flying. It's more complicated with helicopters that, but then again, I know technology has changed aviation and we don't do the fly-by-wire anymore. Even though I prefer it because if technology gets knocked out, you can still fucking fly an F4 because it's fly-by-wire. But I actually considered entertaining.
You're mixing up terms just a tiny bit there. So fly-by-wire is when you're actually not flying by wire, and what I mean by that is you're thinking of flying by cable.
I was always told that it was fly-by-wire, so it's fly-by-cable.
Fly by cable, and in the case of something like an F4,
because you're actually manipulating the rudders.
There's actually pull rods, and there's not even cables on something like an F4 you connect it to a hydraulic servo because you could never muster enough strength. Most modern helicopters are the same way. You fly with cables. You fly with poles, tubing that connects from the flight control bell cranks down to a hydraulic servo because you can't move it. So the fly-by-wire is how the F-16 is referred to because it doesn't have any of those. You send electronic impulses to a computer, and then the computer
I was taught completely different. Yeah, so that makes more sense though by cable than wire. I get it. Okay.
And now in the airplane I'll be flying this afternoon, it's all cables. It's cables to pulleys and pulleys up to little flight control surfaces.
Absolutely. By the way, John Osteen says, before I forget, Gary's show with Don and Stephen Bradford was great. Bradford is one of those super knowledgeable, intelligent, articulate guys who rarely pops up. Have him back if you can. I'll talk to Don about it. Don likes these guys, and he's really pushing the envelope to get his show back to the popularity it was before. And yes, I agree with you. Wasn't that a line in Airplane? Yes, a completely different kind of flying altogether. And then he said, it's a different kind. Everybody quotes, it's a great scene. I love that movie. So this briefing scene is where you finally get to see Dale Dye, Air Skipper, playing a air cav officer. Always looks so awesome. He's got the voice of a soldier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you hear him in so many video games and movies. He's the voice of the warning voice in Indiana Jones in not Last Crusade, Crystal Skull. Crappy movie. Best moment, even though it was the jumping the shark scene with the refrigerator. But he's the warning voice in the Atomic Village, doing the countdown.
Sense. I couldn't get all the way through that movie, which is a rarity.
Oh, it was hard, dude. I'm in a theater, so I was kind of forced to. Now, Tommy never served in the military, but he's got really great military bearing. And you know what I'm talking about. You can always, I'll go into a bar or go somebody's, and I'll meet somebody, and I'm like, this guy's got military bearing.
Sure.
And you just automatically know they served. And Dale's got it in spades, but Tommy Lee Jones, who never served, he just played football in college. As that Dale likes him because of that reason. He's very fond of Tommy Lee Jones. He's worked with him in, I think, 4 movies. Cage is so weird in this movie. Watching it again, I didn't notice just how annoying he is.
I hate his character. And somebody said before, the best thing in this movie, or the only good thing in this movie, are the helicopters. No.
And Tommy Lee Jones.
Cut out the crappy romance shit, and what's left is good.
Yep. Now, Sean Young is a friend of mine, so I will never disparage her. She's awesome in this film, but her character doesn't make sense.
No, and they weren't sure how to play her either. I mean, it wasn't accurate. It's one of the more difficult aspects as your lovely better half has indicated. If you eliminated some of the nonsense of the love story, which we could say about a lot of military movies, I think that it's put in there to provide some kind of attraction to couples. But it was not necessary.
Absolutely unnecessary. In fact, I felt that it brought the film down. I think it hurt the film.
Sure.
They planned on making this the Top Gun for the Army.
Right.
They thought this was going to be increase recruitment. And it was going to have a huge impact, and it didn't do anything. It was so bad, and I felt bad because it's got a massive cast, a really good cast, but Nick Cage is so fucking weird in this movie, dude. And his supposed I dominant issue is such a silly thing, and they fix it too quickly. It's like that takes for a while, like months, to learn how to retrain your eye. Can't do that overnight. We'll do it with a montage. Have you ever dealt with that? Anybody with a right eye or left eye dominant problem?
I've had different heads-up displays, especially for helicopters. They tend not to actually put them up on the screen. They tend to want to put it onto your helmet or an eyepiece. It's very popular through the 90s and early 2000s. And, of course, the Apache pioneered a very unique lens system. As you move your head, you are seeing as it's going to that spot. So it provided.
Yeah, because that was how the aiming system worked,
NVGs
right?
For a long time because of the advanced night visibility system that they had, the NVIS that they had.
Well, the question goes that the way that I was told that it works, and you tell me if that was correct or not, was that in the early versions, it was how you turned your head that moved the weapon.
Yes, you can slew your weapon to your headset. That's
that
correct.
you were taught not to move your eyes, but to move your whole head towards the target.
Yeah,
And
if you
then-
moved your eyes, you're not slewing. If you have
Right.
that selected. The other way to do it is that you would manually bring the gun or whatever weapon you're going to use. You have a way to toggle that over. Usually on one of the control surfaces. The front seat and back seat can both obviously fly and both fire the weapons. They usually split the duty up. Front seat's called the gunner because of the ability to see and then drive the weapon system to targets.
And there's the Kiowa, by the way.
Yep.
And that's the one that Sean Young's character is the pilot of in the film. And there were so many things they could have done with this to make it more interesting and to slowly create a romance. Instead, just have that camaraderie at first, building into something. But then they made it the whole past relationship thing, and I was just like, I'm out. I was like, I'm not interested in these.
Well, it wasn't even interesting though. That's the thing.
No,
the past
it's
relationship
not.
wasn't interesting. It didn't dry in for any reason on it. And
Nope.
he definitely has some deficiencies in his personality.
Yes, he does. He is so fucking over the top ridiculous in this movie with some of the shit they have him doing. And on top of that, the radio banter would never fucking happen.
No.
You would not say babe, love, or any of that shit over fucking radio. They would have you before the man if that happened. I mean, that's like damaging to your career shit for inappropriate communication on an open line in a military setting. You don't fucking do that. And they do it throughout the whole movie. Coming to get you, babe, at the end.
It gets so annoying. I'm as far as you can be from being a military person, and even I get upset by that shit.
And you will see in the interview with Dale in the second half of the show, Dale was infuriated with that because this was not his movie. This is the movie got made, and he only gets a story credit because he wrote the entire screenplay.
And as you'll find out in that interview, many rewrites trying to keep things on track.
And they wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't listen to him. They try to tell him you can't do that, and they would fucking do it anyway. And the radio chatter is just fucking ridiculous. I remember I almost got in trouble for inappropriate radio chatter when I set up one of those one-man antennas, which is not a one-man antenna. It takes 2 to 3 people to put that antenna up unless you want to get cut in half. That thing was dangerous. It's the tension cables. When you're trying to attach those things, man, and you're not paying attention, one of those things will come loose and cut you right in half. And so I got on there and I had to do a radio test, and fucking Fort Ord was on the radio, and they heard me. And I was just fucking around, and it was one of those Star Wars moments. Who is this? What is your operating number? And the exact words I said were, I'm like, I realized, oh, they don't know who I am. So I went, Charlie Foxtrot out, and I like disconnected the radio and pulled the antenna down so they couldn't triangulate and find me. Got the hell out of there. I'm like, I'll never do that again. Fuck around, you'll find out. But I don't know, man. You know, I hate hating a movie. I really do. I really do. And it's not like I hate this movie. There was something in here, and of course, it's got Tommy Lee Jones in it and Dale Dye. I love that. It's got Sean Young, my friend, and it's got a really just weird Nick Cage character that just doesn't fit the film at all. He doesn't act like any pilot I have ever met.
Nick Cage always looks like he's stoned in this movie.
Yeah, it does.
The thing is, you can see how Nicolas Cage is containing not to explode when he has to act not like Cage.
Yeah. Go ahead, Commander. I'm sorry.
No, the thing about it is you have to take this in conjunction with Top Gun. So Top Gun creates all these characters.
Right.
And Top Gun creates this dynamic of the Maverick pilot. So they didn't want it to be like a direct Army copy. So they created this, and they missed it. There's just no getting around it. They could have had him behave that way for a very short period of time, and then he's able to get mentored by Mr. Jones, and Tommy is able to get him to see the light to go forward with it. It was just kind of crazy how it this rolled in there. Also, the backstory that's going on with Tommy Lee Jones' character and this mission and what it's up against, they really missed a golden opportunity to really set the film up high. In fact, it would have been the breaker, I think, that would have distinguished it from Top Gun, because Top Gun was just the opposite. Top Gun was all about the training. It was all about what they were doing to try to perfect the skills of very, very good tactical aircrews, pilots, and Rios, in the case of the F-14.
Right.
This was the opposite. This was very short on the training, very big going to the big mission that was going on, because they knew what they were headed to the whole time. So they could have really taken that dynamic. And it's sad because it really did have the potential to do that. The maneuvering that they do in this movie highlighted very well the capabilities, and it really got people to realize you could do stuff. But I still have people tell me they preferred the flying in the Roy Scheider movie. I can't think of the helicopter
Blue
one.
Thunder. Blue Thunder. The action was much better than in this film. Some of the flight battle scenes are so chaotic the way they shot it. And some people like that. I don't like that. I like to be able to see exactly what's going on. That's what's wonderful about Star Wars. What's wonderful about Top Gun. People want to see what's going on. And they get a little chaotic. And by the way, this scene where he's doing I'm the greatest thing.
Yeah, that was fucking, really there's
nobody would tolerate that shit.
Yeah, if there's a turn off to how unlikely this movie is, character-wise, especially, that was it.
Yep. Just
that
his behavior.
He keeps calling his superior officer granddad over the radio at that. And
I told you, none of the radio chatter in this is accurate.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm going to disagree. I especially when I was on the older end of my career, I took a lot of pappy and daddy kind of things on the backside of our radios, but it was in a fairly appropriate manner, usually on a frequency where
delivered
we were
in an appropriate manner. Yeah, I get
or
that.
If the goal was that we were going to be doing something where we're basically nose to nose against each other, in a 1v1 or a 2v1 kind of situation, or practicing, very close formation type work. So that does come up.
Where that would happen.
It's exceeded in this in a way that it made it seem like this was just standard ops, and that was a great misjustice.
Yep. You said it a moment ago, and I want to bring this up, that really the B story or even C story of the film is the romance, but it's brought forward to an A story, pushing all the stuff that should have been the A story to the B and C status. And like his eye problem, that should have been like a major thing within the story, that he's going to be out. There's drama and tension in that. Like, if he can't do this, no matter how good a pilot he is, he's out of the program. And they just don't focus on it that way.
Right.
And they don't put the time and effort into it, because something like that with it's not a lazy eye, but you have to deal with it the same way as you deal with a lazy eye, because it's like a buddy of mine in high school had a lazy eye, so he had to wear a patch to make the lazy eye become stronger. And it's the same thing with somebody who becomes left or right eye dominant. And of course, they show the scene where shooting a pistol and he closes one eye. And I said, somebody didn't teach him how to shoot a pistol. You shoot with your both eyes open.
Right.
That's how I was taught as a kid.
Point that she is the one figuring out what his problem is.
Yeah. And she's got nothing to do with any of that. But that's where they could have had a great moment of the story, where she is deeply involved with that. She's not just a pilot, but she's also somebody in charge of something. It's just piss poor placement of characters and what their drive is. And it's just a huge mistake in the film. And the film suffers for it. Tommy Lee Jones, in the end, is actually the only interesting character in the film.
Because he's the most complete.
He's the most complete and well-rounded character that you know who he is. I like the relationship he has with the actress that plays his wife. Anybody who knows Lethal Weapon knows who she is. She's been in a lot of films, but Lethal Weapon is what she's best known for. She's the psych therapist that thinks that Riggs is dangerous. But good actress. We lost her. I think she died in 2015. Cancer. Got her. But anyway, these scenes are also, they should have been better than what they were, because these briefings are important, not just to move the story forward, but they're also great moments for showing development of the character and understanding what's getting ready to happen. And you don't get that at all. Although I do like this one. Did you like this where he's showing the different movement of the helicopter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty well done.
I was
especially
wondering,
for an aircraft that has the capabilities that conventionally are not seen or understood very well by the general public.
Well, he's talking about moments where he shows where it's moving forward and sideways. And I'm like, oh, that is cool that he mentions that. You know, the helicopters have this diverse way of going into combat. It's not like the A-10, which was my favorite, because I was infantry, combat medic in the infantry, and I love those fucking A-10 Warthogs, man. They were the beast. And but I have a great passion for helicopters. The Cobra and Apache are my two favorite helicopters. Black Hawks last. Dealt with them. I prefer the Huey, I got to be honest, over the Black Hawk. I don't know why.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. I would much rather take a Black Hawk into bad airspace than a Huey.
Well, see, I'm thinking as a grunt, whereas you are a pilot, and you know better than I do why it's a better craft. But I just I like the way where I sat. I was sat in the medic seat in the helicopters. I liked it. So, but that's just a thing. The one thing I remember about the Huey was I learned about the Jesus nut.
Yeah, I have one in the room here someplace. Give me a second while you're talking. Hold on.
Okay, because a lot of people don't know what that is. I found out what it was, and basically they said, "I'll wait till he's back," because the reason I was told by the sergeant, my sergeant told me the reason why it's called the Jesus nut is because if it breaks, you better pray.
So if you look, there's the nut in my hand.
Oh, let me enlarge your screen here real quick.
So there's the nut in my hand. This is how the entire helicopter could be suspended on a gantry. So if I remember correctly, the D model H1 that I flew was about 9,200 pounds, 9,500 pounds total weight with fuel.
And that would hold it up, man.
And that would hold it up. And on the inside, it's threaded. So this sat on the very top of the transmission. Most helicopters have some kind of an attachment point like that. Obviously, when you have a lot of stuff on the mast, you have to put lift points in different spots.
Yeah, and what my sergeant said was it holds everything together. And more importantly, if it breaks, you better pray.
Yeah, you're saying, oh, Jesus.
Yep, oh, Jesus. So that was why they called it the Jesus nut. Now, I like these talk scenes where he's doing these briefings, video briefings. It's moving us forward to pretty much what talks are like today. People, like, I got to tell you, even when my buddy Ernie was serving during 2004, the talk centers have changed. Like World War II to Star Wars in that period of time. That the talk centers are so, tactical operations centers are so different today. And better, and the way they get their feeds, everything. It's so advanced to what it was just 20 years ago. And because I have to keep up on it, because whenever I'm doing a book, working on artwork, I have to know what shit looks like. Dale expects me, because I'm his artist. He expects me to know what I'm doing when I'm doing a painting. If I'm having to bug him all the time, that upsets him. and I just don't bother him. I just find out on my own. And my God, TOCs are incredible today.
That's an interesting point you bring up, that if you go back to the comparison between Top Gun and Firebirds, the Army portrayed a much more organized, much more crafted environment than what the Navy did. The Navy,
I know what you're saying.
Navy's working out of a hangar. There's no air conditioning. They're jumping into the airplanes, and it's very accurate to how land forces versus naval forces, since I've spent time in both, quite a bit of time in both, operate and set up. So the one of the things that I think that they were hoping would be attractive to people who would be drawn to do this, they would see these kinds of facilities that the Army had, because the Army's reputation is not having great facilities, and now with this investment, and there's a lot behind this. I talked about this when we were with Dale, that the reason the Apache exists is because the Air Force put out a request for information or request for proposal for an aircraft to kill tanks. And the Hughes Aircraft Company came out and developed this very sophisticated, very Air Force-like way to do it. The Army put out the same request, and Fairchild Republic Aircraft responded with the A-10, which was a very Army way of addressing it. A big gun, a very, very suitable platform to go do it. Now, of course, because of nonsense between the Air Force and the Army over the years, and inter-service stupidity, not rivalry, but stupidity, in my opinion, not humble, in my opinion, you have this nonsense that armed helicopters can only be in the Army, and armed fixed-wing aircraft can only be in the Air Force. The Navy.
Because a lot of people don't know, by the way, I want to insert this, is that every branch has their own air mobile group.
Well, they have some usually Air Force capacity or air arm capacity.
Marines, Navy,
the Marines
Army.
Probably have the very best because the Marines' stance has long been they're just an extension of their riflemen. So everything that they want to do lines up with that capability, with that kind of desire to support that. So they have fixed wing, they have helicopters, they have no question about what roles or missions. They're not the least bit reluctant to put on any.
Yeah, in fact, the first Cobra I ever saw was a Marine Cobra.
Yeah, and they pioneered, of course, the four-bladed Cobra, which led to the final rendition of it, the Z model or Zebra Cobra, which is still considered one of the best. There is in some cases where it can out the Apache, and of course the Apache can out the Z model Cobra.
By the way, as I recall, they were the first pilots or aviators to work with the British straight up, what's it called, the Hawker Harrier. That was the Marine Corps, wasn't it?
All services had pilots involved, including an Army pilot was involved. Then it was called the.
I didn't know that. I thought it was the Marine Corps that went first.
No, the Marine Corps is the one that decided to go forward with it, but the Air Force, the Navy, Army, and the Marines were all involved in flying the Kestrel, which is the Harrier, the forerunner to the Harrier. And it's always surprised me, going off a little bit offline here, the Air Force has never been interested in vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. They're getting a lot more interested in it now because they're trying to come up with ways that airplanes don't need runways. That's literally what they're after, is airplanes that don't need runways. Not helicopters, airplanes. They're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to fly the distances and cover the distances that the Pacific is going to require, and how we're going to do that. So
now,
that was
the helicopter, by the way,
drive
he's
of
flying.
The technical sophistication of what was shown in the movie really highlighted the kind of investment the Army had made. There was a lot of people, for folks that don't know much about Army aviation, the Aviators series out of Webb Griffin's books is a really good one to read, because in the particular the aviators, he talks about the really technical helicopter of the 60s that came on board to the Army, and that was the H-47. And the Army crashed a number of H-47s. And of course, the Air Force was standing there saying, well, that's because they're allowing enlisted people, which is not correct. Warrant officers are not enlisted. They're officers. They're warrant officers. They're allowing people basically without college degrees to fly very sophisticated airplanes. Now, helicopters, simple fixed-wing airplanes, that might work, but you need to have a certain pedigree to fly sophisticated aircraft. Rather insulting kind of viewpoint in my terms and how I take it. But that set the Army to realize that the technical sophistication was going to require the kind of ASVAB testing that you were seeing, Gerry, the things they were looking for to get themselves lined up. Did I just Gerry the Gary again? Did I just do
it's okay, buddy.
Jagari.
I've got a thick skin to it now.
Yeah, would you Gary it? I don't know why I always do that with you.
He even changed his name to help people pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, here you go. See, I spelled it with an A.
Now.
Yeah, Jagari. Jagari.
Jagari.
I'm sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it, buddy.
But that,
look,
the sophistication
we got
that
people
led
still
is what
coming in.
And then when there was a strong belief when we rolled into Desert Storm that this was the Apache was going to be a disaster. And the Apache, with one small exception, that was basically because it was a very risky mission and it was flown up to and beyond its limits. And it did pretty well considering that. Did an extraordinary job. But the Army deserves a lot of credit. The people that kept the aircraft up the way they were trained to fly it. All that's kind of sewed in this movie, but as we have mercilessly hammered, it is somewhat lost. Now, I will say that the eyesight sighting system that's used has slowly been worked out of the Apache, and it's not nearly as dependent on that same system. But one of the things that is kind of legendary that will never really get good credit beyond your show is that the sophistication of putting the information to the aircrew, pilots, Rios, on their helmets, and less of it showing up on screens is now the trend. That's how the F-35 works. The F-35 works the way it does because the pilot's helmet, which is extremely expensive, unbelievably expensive, is the node that connects the pilot into the aircraft and into the network. And that really started quite extensively here with the Apache, more than any other aircraft, because it was easier to put that onto plates or screens, which is that typical heads-up display when you see like the clear, almost clear angled glass on the top of the instrument panel, and it'll project everything from gun sights to showing you what's happening with the air battle. That now has moved into the helmet, and a lot of it traces back to the lineage of what was done for the Apache.
Well, Commander, I want to ask you a question on this one. And by the way, I want to point out more people have jumped in here, so I need to say hi to them real quick. It looks like my buddy Zax is here. Good morning, buddy. Andy Morrow is here. You probably know him. He watches a lot of KGRA. Trey Rock Creation have joined us. And we have a few comments. Let me see some of these comments. I've got them starred. Cage plays better intellectual roles than anything. I agree with you. Let's see. I think Martine is trying to say if Sean Young was being a skin job and he was Harrison Ford, he'd risk his life for her. Was that what you were trying to say, Martin?
Not exactly.
Not exactly? Okay. Lady V says, what's a skin job? And then he explains Blade Runner reference. Gotcha. Let's see. Osteen, she was the first movie crush still. Sean Young?
Yeah.
Yeah. Learning about the Jesus Nut is what gave me religion, Air Assault Trooper. You mean that one thing holds everything together and my life depends on it? Yep. And of course, Zach said, good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Lady V says, he is very expressive, great drama school. and she's talking about Nick Cage. And she likes the Gerry thing.
And
She
of course,
spelled it
Austin's
it's
called
like
me out
jig
and dropping a
airy.
bomb after 4 minutes. He always
Right.
does that.
Laughy face, and then Andy
He's so
said
strict
hi.
with me.
Who is?
Austin, he always calls me out for dropping an F-bomb. He's like 4 minutes and she's done it already.
He's one of those devoted Catholics. There she is. That's the psychotherapist from the Lethal Weapon films. She does a great job as his wife. You actually buy it, when she gets a little sexy with him, kind of like the black guy kind of thing. It's like, you look a little roughed up. Why don't we fool around a little? And that's more like it. The whole thing with Nick Cage and Sean Young just doesn't work. There's no chemistry between the two of them at all.
Right.
And it's just they never worked it out. And you have to work that out. The whole relationships have to work in film. And it looks like somebody just didn't do it. Lady V likes your F-bombs, by the way, Anima.
Oh, I know that.
One of the many things you've picked up doing since getting involved with me.
I really have not. I really have not.
I don't think you cussed much before
like
me.
that. Oh, no, I did. My mom always hated that so much. So I switched to Casimir Croatian so she wouldn't understand it.
Oh, okay.
But I always cussed.
All right, Commander, what do you think about this periscope and the panties on the head thing?
Well, to say
low
that such activity never occurred in my career ever would not be accurate.
Oh yeah, there's always fuck around.
So I just don't think it really worked in the movie again. To me, it just seems like they're trying too hard to come up with something to compete with another movie, another franchise, to make it fit. So, and of course, nowadays standards totally doesn't fit. It just makes. So I thought it was rather silly.
And I want to point out something that I was going to talk to Skipper about. I want to look into doing. I probably have to rename it. I would like to go back to his original script and do it as a graphic novel.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Because I bet you
Speaking of which, I have a project for you. We got to talk off air.
Absolutely. I've been holding back on pulling the trigger for the last year, actually 10 years, because I had to raise my daughter, and raising her, I put my career on the back burner.
I just want to say real quick, Gerry, that last picture showed the infamous aircraft that was supposed to be the real meat of the competition here, and that was a quick computer renditioning of the Mi-24 Hind, and that figures prominently in our discussion. That happens to be an A model there.
Dale talks about that because now, and I pointed out that Rambo 3 dealt with them. And the way they did it is I can't remember what they took. Was it
Pumas?
Sikorsky?
They took a Puma helicopter.
Puma helmet.
And they converted it to make an A model. And it was actually used in the original Swayze's in it with
Red Dawn.
Oh, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
They should have done that with this film.
Yeah.
And I wish they'd done it, because I got to tell you, the enemy helicopter they have in this, it doesn't look threatening in any way, shape, or form. It may look small, but and even bring it up in the briefing. It may look small, but this sucker's got punch, and it's like, yeah, you're not selling me. You're not selling me. This is a repeat of or rehash of Blue Thunder. And
one of the sad parts about that is just the speed difference alone between the 086 AH6 that they use, or that variant that they're using in that, and
because it's the second cousin of the what is that?
It's a Little Bird. It's a rendition of the Little Bird aircraft,
which is the same thing as what TC flies in Magnum PI.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's an earlier version.
It's the next step up or something. And still, I just I don't think it works in the film. They needed something a little more dangerous. And if they had just simply done what they did with Rambo and with Red Dawn, they would have had a good helicopter. So much thought went into this that didn't, on paper, didn't end up in the movie. And I think it hurt the film. I really
It's
do.
a shame they didn't allow it to deal with an airplane either. If they had done the Apache against an airplane, but that would have been.
Well, you have the Saab in it, the
Yep.
Delta Wing Saab. It's a Swedish fighter.
Yeah, it's the Viggen that they use.
No, it's a Draken.
Is it a Draken?
Vegan is the vegan.
I just remember it's the main builder that is Saab, S-A-B, and built in Sweden. And it was one of the few fighters that were in the true Delta shape early on. And because they started experimenting with that stuff all the way back in the 50s, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. Everybody had a version of it. The Mirage being probably one of the most popular that came out in the United States. It was F-102 started that.
F-102, yep. And it was a pretty cool fighter, I got to tell you. But
quite honestly, the F-16 is very much a Delta. It's a clip Delta wing. They just
is.
take the ends off.
The way, when it's wings back, it goes completely Delta. And
on the F-14, that's correct. On the F-16, the ends of the triangle are clipped.
Yeah, and there's an F-16 prototype that is full Delta.
Well, you're talking about the cranked arrow, which is very much like the Viggen, where they built out the forward part of the wing and then blended up into the fuselage with another part. So it's a full Delta all the way across, as you're saying, and they have like a strake that adds up all the way up to the cockpit. Very, very impressive bird.
Yeah, and Tree Rock Creations, good friend of mine over on Twitter too. I hate quick cuts. I hate them. The Apache helicopter deserved a better movie than this garbage. Exactly. We like those long shots. We like those long, sexy shots of vehicles. When you start quick cutting, it becomes confusing. And that was one of my major complaints with the film, is that the combat footage is very confusing.
I'm going to make a note here to Martin and all assembled. I think it's going to be very difficult in the future after Top Gun Maverick to ever view aerial fighting scenes quite the same.
And you know what I said about that film, by the way.
What
it's
they
the
did,
best Star Wars movie since Star Wars.
To put those cameras inside the cockpit, to blend it in there. I mean, they used AI only where they had to use the AI, but what they were able to do in those short bursts allowed people to feel what they were seeing.
Yep.
You don't get that in most movies, and sadly in this one you don't get it at all. It really disconnects the kind of work that went on there. The other part that many folks who know me, and if they catch me on this interview later on, I put the word out to a number, they'll probably pick it up. I do have to make one other part. Tactically, there's a really unusual part about this. Apaches own the night. That is where they are really effective. So why would you not take these bad guys out at night?
Yeah, leaving an important thing out like that.
Killer team up.
That's like, I don't know. It's sort of like when I was working with Dale on writing City of Fire. I wrote the first draft, and he wrote the second draft, and we were set to make this movie, Commander, and you would have loved it. It was about the first Stryker Brigade in Iraq, and it was an experimental thing, and the Army did not want civilians or society knowing about it because they weren't sure it was going to be successful, and it killed. It was awesome. It was given the nickname the Ghosts of Samara because they wouldn't be there, and then suddenly they were there because they drove around on what's called what do they call that? I forgot the name. Run flats, where they're tires that actually don't need to have air in them, and they're specifically designed to keep going even when they're hit with bullet rounds. And we wrote that up there, and the Strykers were best known for going out at night. When they went out during the day, it was because it had to happen because of June 24th of 2004 was when the insurgency switched its tactics and set off car bombs throughout the country, killing Iraqi people. They had stopped fighting us, and they went and attacked the people to terrorize them. and make them scared of them. And so that was one of the few times strikers went out during the day. Strikers tend to go out at night. And It's the same thing with the Apache. They are best used and utilized for their stealth and their ability to do certain things. Their design is specifically to give it a small, I think it's the size of a duck, their radar signature. The Apache.
Yeah, you'd have a hard time getting an Apache down quite that small.
And you brought up something a minute ago I want to mention. The A-10 Fairchild came out in October of 77. I met a bunch of the guys when I was in Malaga, Spain in 1977. I was 13. And they told us, well, we're working on this plane right now. They described it to me. They wouldn't give me the name of it, my dad or me. But when they explained it, when October came out, we're like, that's what they were working on, was the A-10. And I'm telling you, man, that is the infantry's best friend right there. Next best friend is helicopters, but those A-10 Warthogs are beasts. And they fly so low. They'll come. I've seen it happen, dude. And I'm telling you, one of the most beautiful things I ever saw was just the sudden appearance of an A-10 coming up over a fucking hill. And I'm like, oh, we're saved, guys. Even though nothing was happening. It was just fucking awesome. But I did see a Cobra open up with the Gatling gun. That was a 50, right?
I'm trying to think what they carry on it. I know they carried 50s. They could put them on there.
It was a tri-barrel weapon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had the electric 50 cal as well.
All I know is they hit this building and somebody said they blew it apart, and I went, no, they dusted it. It was hit with so many rounds, you couldn't really see bullet damage. All you saw was rounded edges where it hit, where it just blew sections away and just dusted the building with these almost smooth lines with the debris of the brick cinder block. Oh, it's just the most horrifying thing. And that's when they were firing over top of us. They came over slow, not fast. Came over slow, and they were firing, and all that fucking hot brass landed on us. Have you ever been hit by hot brass?
Not from an aircraft like that.
It's fucking terrifying.
But I did have a rather uncomfortable moment qualifying on the range where the 9mm shell ejected, hit the back of my head, caught the lip of my flight suit, and then dropped straight down to the crack of my ass. And it was hot all the way down. So there's a personal war story for you. You don't get a Purple Heart for cauterizing your ass that way with a 9mm round, but that was an interesting. I should have probably melted it down and turned it into a religious symbol or something, but I didn't.
Right now,
I'm pretty sure
we got burns on our necks and arms.
I do want to give a big kudo to the Apaches. In Iraq, they were one of our best anti-sniper. They could shoot one 20mm round. So if you didn't have to worry about it hitting the guy directly, just hitting near him. Right. And most of the time, obviously, these folks would set up either in a building or on top of a roof inside a structure where they couldn't easily be seen by us. But once we got it zeroed down, that we believe where it was, from a fairly good distance. And of course, the Apaches were daylight there, mainly at that point because the tactics had changed, and that the Apache obviously just presented like the Striker, a very visual, emotional impact on the enemy. But they would take one and they would shoot rifle off one round, and it'd get inside that building, and it would ricochet around inside that building until everything stopped. So,
damn, dude, yeah. We're getting near the end of the film and also getting ready to hit our top of the hour. Gosh, I'm sitting here just in.
So one last thing to talk about the Apache going out that I'll throw out.
Yeah.
A lot of the folks that know me from other get-togethers know about my time test flying the X-49, which was a Black Hawk, actually a Seahawk variant, where we took the tail rotor off of it and we put a pusher propeller on the back end. And we added wings to it. And it's
where did they put it?
Helicopter. I test flew that in 2007.
Where did they put the push prop on it?
on the where the tail rotor was, we cut the boom off and added. Maybe Martin can bring it up. X49 PIAC Piac X49 Speedhawk, and you can see a picture of it. It was a really interesting thing because we were able to keep about 85% of the original airframe and able to basically double, if not 2.5 times its top speed, and increase the range by 3, maybe a factor of 4, what projected on it. Very, very capability. And we had a really cool one for the Apache to do with the Apache. The wings on the Apache, the Stores wings, are able to create a little bit of lift. It's a great aircraft to put a set of wings on, carry the munitions, and with that pusher capability, there's just a unique way that the system allowed you to have anti-torque control when you got into a hover. Because once you get into forward flight, you don't need as much.
Yeah, nobody is better on a radio, by the way, than Dale Dye.
I agree.
But that's so cool. Is there like footage or anything that you're?
Oh God, yeah, it's all over YouTube. If you
of you doing it, I would love to see it.
X49 Speedhawk.
Let me go look it up because I guess Martin's not here.
Yes, I was looking for some images.
Oh,
but
you found it?
That's beat me.
That's gorgeous, dude. Look at that. I'd love to see footage of that thing working. Did you find any footage?
I just found the that. I'll see if I can find some footage.
That'd be awesome. But anyway, getting back to the film.
Wait.
What do you mean, wait?
I found some color pictures.
Yeah, I completely lost you guys. I can hear you, so that's good. I can still talk to a blank screen here while I'm working. Getting back to you.
Tree Rock points out hot brass. I'm going to tell you something. God, man, I've complained. And I thought it was funny. There's a line in Black Hawk Down about firing the saw gun so close to him. And I tell people it fires the same round as an M16, but it's open. It has an open loading station, so it's much louder. Look at that.
I've got footage.
Okay, I want to see footage. Is this you?
It is.
Look at
now,
that.
If I could just see it, I could comment on it. I apologize. I've lost direct connection with you guys.
Wow. I'm going to pause it for a second, John. Drop out and come back in, Commander.
Yeah, if I could get back to the picture here, you'll see me. I'm coming back to you in a second.
Okay. That tail rudder reminds me.
I don't know how many of me are in there.
I'm trying to get it fixed. Stop moving things. Anybody that's doing it, stop. There we go. So can you see the screen now?
I can.
Okay. So go ahead and hit play. There we go. That's you flying this thing.
Yes. I was the chief test pilot, and that's who I work for, is the chief test pilot.
This reminds me of a fan boat fan on the back.
Yep, and then those things that they retract, and that's how you get the forward thrust.
Wow.
When you're in a hover, they would come out automatically.
So it's vectored thrust.
In a way, there's a rudder and there is an elevator inside that.
Look at that.
Notice
this
how
is so much better than the movie we're supposed to discuss.
Notice how flat the main rotors are.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that cuts down on a lot of the drag. That's why we're able to go so fast.
Yeah, and this reminds me. There was a question I wanted to have for you because I remember a while back that they forbade civilian pilots of helicopters from dusting off the way military trains. So you're not allowed to dust off the way the military did. And I tried to explain to Anima the couple times I got to see it. I said what they would do is they would go up and then start tilting with their nose down and then just fucking take off fast. And have you ever done that?
Oh yeah.
You're
Yeah, I've done
using
it in
your
civilian helicopters,
main
too.
prop to move you forward as it's leaning forward, and then you go back up again. And that's how it happened the 4 times that I got to see dust-offs. And it blew my mind that they could do that. And apparently civilians are trying to do that, and for some reason they kept crashing their helicopters. We have a terrible record in this country of crashed medical flights. Unbelievably high number. And what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, we had 4 in 1 year. Then it was like all of them were fatal. And it's like, what the heck was going on with that? Any thoughts on that? Because I'm curious what you thought about that. Oh, we can't hear you now.
It's a very demanding work environment that you're on. Most civilian helicopters are not doing any kind of aggressive dust-off takeoff like that. Single pilot operations a lot. And you're fighting usually bad weather.
I know they do that shit with the Coast Guard,
now
man.
They've
It's horrifying.
optimized helicopters for it much better.
Yeah, some of the scariest flying I've ever seen is Coast Guard during storms. Crazy shit.
Generally people don't get lost on a good day.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the film because we are at the top of the hour now.
I need to take a quick step away and I'll be right back.
Well, we'll be right back too. We're going to do our commercial. What, Martin? All right, we are back. Let's get this thing going again. Okay, Roberts, it's fully fielded. It would have doubled our golden hour range. What was that in reference to? Orville Nation's here too, by the way. Hey.
Yeah. I guess it should be fully fueled.
That would make sense.
Hi, Kay Roberts. Good to see you. Monkey Jeebus is here too. Monkey.
Yeah.
Monkey. Peter Gabriel. Shocked the monkey.
We apparently freaked him out because we used his face on Odd Job last week for.
Did that freak him out?
Yeah.
Okay, can you guys see 2 of me?
No.
I already kicked the other one.
Okay, good.
That was an imposter.
Yeah, no replicants allowed.
Okay, yeah, I just can't figure out where this goes on the screen when I go to pull something else up.
By the way, they don't really go into detail about how the aiming system works in this movie at all.
No, and I'm
that's
sure
something
that
they should have.
I think that they didn't do it in Top Gun either. They had a rather hokey kind of picture showing you when the missile and stuff like that was going. I'm sure that was a big consideration about not giving anything away. Cheap intel,
military.
Gift.
Well, they glaze over it really quickly when he says, "Don't move your head," or "Don't move your eyes, move your head." And I thought, oh, that was an interesting little point. But anyway, it's cool. But I am curious, did they ever upgrade it to where it can track your eye movement now?
I don't know on that. In general, the only time that they do eye tracking movements in most airplanes is to see where the pilot's eyes are. And what they're doing that for is, in the case of training, we put it in simulators a lot of times, and we see where the student's eyes. Then you can say, well, you're focusing too much on this particular screen or instrument, and you're not moving your eyes around enough. And they can see where the eyeballs are going. And then on another system, for high G, that's the Draken right there.
Yeah, this is the Saab right there. Yep.
Yeah, that's the Draken. That is not.
This could have led to some really good fight combat, and I feel like they dropped the ball on this too.
But in the high performance fighters, they have a couple things that check eyes as well to see if you're conscious. Part of the system that if you do pass out, the plane's autopilot will take over and fly you out in what they call an uncommanded recovery. And that's saved a number of people's lives.
Like if somebody passes out during taking
A G-lock,
on G's, or
gravity.
if they've removed their mask and they lose consciousness because they didn't breathe air properly. So it's I like that. It's like Elon Musk make that.
No, he didn't.
But anyway, this is after what's his name? Tommy Lee Jones' character gets shot down.
Right.
And again, some of the dialogue here is just so fucking hokey. Drove me crazy, some of the writing here. And I don't blame Dale for this because, as you see in a few minutes, Dale immediately, the first thing he starts talking about is something that pissed him off about making this film. He did his best as a military advisor, and he's in the movie, and he gets credit for the story, co-credit for the story.
Right.
And I think that's kind of shitty that they did that. And it's so typical, and it's something I know about Dale, and I don't talk about it very much because I don't think it's right. Talk too much about it. But the fact is, a lot of filmmakers out there, I'm going to leave the names out today. I'll talk about it in private, won't talk about it on the show. There are certain filmmakers who take advantage of him. His good nature, because he's a great guy. He really is. And you got a taste of that hanging out with him.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've worked for him for 18 fucking years. And it's the greatest experience of my life. And it's the thing I'm probably most proud of. And I've got kids. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be a jerk saying that. But I got to tell you, man, I hate the blood on the windscreen here. It's just like, it was really bad. Doesn't look real. And the rescue scenes are not realistic.
That is Hollywood being unnecessarily dramatic.
Well, it leads to something that he also complains about. You'll see in the interview. The explosions are ridiculous in this film because you and I know what mortars and artillery look like when they hit. There's very little flame. In fact, sometimes you won't even see any flame. All they're doing in this film is fireballs shooting up.
It should be dust flying off.
It should be debris going up and outward.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still, there's a place in my heart for this film. And part of it is also because Phil Collins did 2 songs for the movie.
Whoever's taking care of it, helicopters do have wingmen.
That's a good question, dude. Mission dependent. Yep. Very much so. Oh, and this is a good comment by Kay Roberts. The golden hour was the contemporary range of operations to allow the medevac within 1 hour. It significantly reduces fatalities and casualties.
And we have breach.
What?
Oh. You don't let me.
Oh, back
He's
door.
out of practice. It took him a while. Usually he fires at you right away.
All right, let me get this one here. I like this one from Kelly's Heroes.
Cowboy, check around and see if there's a back door.
People don't realize he served in the military during World War II. He's in the Navy.
Yeah.
I think both he and Carson were Navy during World War II.
He was funny as CPO Sharky.
Oh my God, I have all the episodes for that. I love that show. Shut up, you hucky puck. When he would look,
I'll never forget when he guest sat for Johnny Carlson. He broke
Carson when he
kind
broke the cigarette box.
That little box. So he put a little note in it, and it said, "Sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to break it." Done. And he put it all back together again so that it just sat there. And I guess at some later date, Johnny Carson's moving around, and it breaks open. He sees the note, and he says, "What the hell is this?" So he gets up And the camera follows him. He leaves his studio because they were filming CPO Sharky in the same
building.
set.
Yep.
And he breaks in on him in a scene and is like, "Hey, Rickles, what the hell? You broke my cigarette box and you leave me a note?" And it was obvious that it may have all been set up, but Don Rickles did not know that he was.
He did not know it was going to happen, and he was caught off guard, dude. It is so freaking funny.
Line.
It's on YouTube. Go look it up. Johnny Carson crashes CPO Sharky Don Rickles.
A riot, absolute riot.
And Don Rickles was notorious, by the way, of just popping in and crashing the Tonight Show. And the hot tub scene is one of my favorites. The massage, and he's like, he gets up close and he tries to touch his body up against Johnny Carson. He's, I'm so lonely. Carson loses it. Get away from me. Oh my God. There would be so much smoke coming off of that scene too. A crash like that, you'd still have smoke coming out. So many little things that bug me too. People will compliment my graphic novel, like Code Word Geronimo in particular. Dale and I did together. We did the story of Navy SEAL Team SEAL Team 6 taking down Bin Laden. And they'll like your stuff's really accurate. Your weapon movement, even though it's a static image, I'm showing turning a corner, exactly how you turn a corner. I tell people corners are important. How you turn a corner when you've got a weapon and how you're holding that weapon is important. And the only 2 times, and Anima was there both times. One was the Navy SEAL show with Chris Pratt.
Right.
Because not only did he have the guy that makes the show is a former Navy SEAL, they had multiple Navy SEALs on set. And when you see him do a right-hand turn at a fence line, I fucking got goosebumps and had a boner because it was so fucking perfect. And I'm like, oh my God. And he did something else in that show. Same show. He did a shoulder switch on a weapon because he was going up a stairwell that went right.
Right.
Ooh, I love it when they do that.
When he did that, I'm like, oh my God, fuck. It's never been shown on film before that. I love that stuff, man. I do. I've got goosebumps just talking about it right now. Fucking goosebumps. When I see accuracy like that, I get excited by that because that is a nod. That's a true nod to those guys that are doing that shit in real life. When you pay attention to detail like that, you're honoring the men and women in the military. So we are done with the film strip now. Yay. Now we can get
over.
It's over. Yeah, Anima did not like that movie at all.
No, and we just watched it last night, so having to watch it again, not even 24 hours later, even if it's just a strip like that, it's just man, that scene was so bad.
I can hear Three Rocks. I can hear Three Rocks creation giving a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open up the video now for Dale's interview.
One was an Apache pilot.
Yeah. Give it a little intro, something.
Give me a second here. I'm going to open a media player here on my computer.
Okay.
And I'm going to share my screen.
Should I close this then?
Oh, can you play it faster?
No.
That's why I'm doing it.
I know. This limitation of the player here.
What was that? Say it again. I'm sorry.
That's one of the limitations of this player.
Oh, I heard you the first time. I just like the way you said it. I'm a jerk.
One day this is going to bite your ass, Gerry. Fucking with your show manager.
Yeah, he's the producer now. John's the show manager.
What's the difference?
You're in charge of different things.
Yeah.
You have the job and you don't know what you do. This doesn't instill confidence in me, man. It scares me a little bit, buddy.
None of us know what we're doing, though. We're just fumbling around, somehow managing to get out shows.
All right, here we go. Got it. And to screen, which one is yours? I think this is mine. There we go. All right. Enlarge. Actually, let me go and hit this real quick. I'll do it at 1.2 speed. 1.2 speed. There we
Coast
go.
Guard. One was an Apache pilot, and one was a Kiowa warrior pilot.
Can you hear it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The line you always hear. Love the flying. The love story sucked.
Oh yeah. In fact, the flying story started to suck. I mean, it was a fight. I'll tell you. So are you ready to do this?
Yeah, it's going to be a real casual interview because this is going to be show during our Monday show where we do Military Monday, where we do a slideshow presentation of the film. And but I'm also probably going to keep some of this for one of my Dangerous Nerds episodes too, because it's sort of, it's still weird to me that I've known you for as long as I've known you, and that I work for you. And I mean, you and Julia have been like your family to me. It's amazing having you in my life. And anytime I told Julia this, anytime I get down, I remind myself, oh my God, I know Del Dunn. And then she wrote on my Facebook page like 10 years ago when I wrote that, she wrote back, and Del Dunn knows you.
Well, that's right.
But it's exciting to get to do this, Skipper, because getting to interview you this last time was really just wanting to talk about you. But this one's going to be focusing on the work you did, because this film, I don't know why it tanked. I really don't, because I enjoy the shit out of this movie, and it's always bothered me. I don't know if it was bad marketing, because everybody turned in a really good performance. I love the script. I'm going to point out I hadn't seen that movie since the original viewing in the theater.
I was just going to say that.
And then I'm like watching it the second time, going, "Oh, this is not good. How could I like this so much back in the '80s?" Oh, and also, by the way, I'm friends with Sean Young, and I'm trying to get an interview for. And by the way, Commander, if you want to add anything or interject, just tell me. I'll pause it. From her about this film.
Well, look, I think the truth of the matter is this movie got to screen in one of the strangest evolutions. It damn near drove me out of screenwriting. I was approached by two retired Army officers, Step Tyner and John Swenson, and they'd been in Army aviation and were big fans of the Apache Longbow, which was state of the art at that time. And they pitched me to use my influence, such as it was, to take this to some producers and see if we could make an Army aviation rotorhead movie. And the concept was exciting to me. What I envisioned when I began to write the thing, by the way, I took it to Keith Barish and Arnold Kopelson, who I had relationships with through prior movies, Platoon and a number of other things. And so they were willing at least to listen to the pitch that I had. But we just started immediately running into problems with this thing. As it was originally envisioned, it was a fight in the Middle East, and it was two Goliath helicopters and two really hot shit pilots that were going to face off mano a mano, or helicopter to helicopter, if you will, and this incredible fight in midair. It was essentially helicopters dogfighting, and I thought, well, how cool is that? We had, Top Gun had come out, and I said, well, we need to do this for the Rotorheads, and so I began to write this thing, and I wrote it and took it to Barish and took it to Kopelson, and they said, well, maybe, it might have some.
Explain, Commander, what Rotorheads are.
That's just the affectionate name for people that fly helicopters because of the main rotary system on them.
Yep.
Here. And then the Axis came out. I mean, everything was wrong. Everything, they couldn't do it. And they couldn't do it without the Army. And I said, look, maybe we could deliver the Army. And I went to General Thurman and several people. He was TRADOC at that point, Training and Doctrine Command. And he liked it. He said, this will be great for Army aviation and all that sort of thing. Well, fine. Now let me get back and try to sell the concept. That was the problem. Nothing seemed to go as I envisioned it, or as Tyner and Swenson and I envisioned it. They wanted it moved to somehow become part of the war on drugs, and that didn't help. So they didn't want Central America. They wanted a bitter bad guy, somebody that they could point a finger to. And the next thing you know, we're in Central America. And I'm rewriting all of this crap, and I'm literally rewriting scenes by the hour to try to get this acceptable to everybody. And everybody had a take on the thing. And then we started figuring it out that maybe the Army aviation had somehow gotten involved in the drug trade or fighting the drug trade in South America. I said, okay, back to the drawing board, and I started in South America. And we didn't even have a director report at this point. And the Army was being a little chilly about the whole thing. They wanted to make sure that they were represented correctly, and I was on their side. But it was just a horror story. And we finally got the Army aboard. The Army said, okay, look, we'll cooperate here. We'll give you some Apache longbows, and we'll give you some pilots, and we'll fly for you, and we'll let you use bases and that sort of thing. So I said, well, here we are. The problem was, in my initial vision of this thing, it was an Apache longbow pilot, hot shit guy, and his gunner, and facing off against an Mi-24, a Hind, which was the big deal in the Warsaw Pact at that point. And so that's how I saw it. Well, nobody could get, nor could anybody mock up at that point, an Mi-24.
Right.
So we ended up in this real horrible compromise, in my view. And I was also acting in this thing, so I was fighting to preserve my situation. We had Tommy Lee Jones and Sean Young and Nick Cage and me and a couple of lesser known entities, and they just couldn't get the Mi-24. And I said, well, what are we going to do? I mean, this can't be Goliath against David here. You know, the longbow represents Goliath, and we got to have something that's equal, or something that people are going to believe. You know, the two giants clashing in midair over rotor noise, and we couldn't find that. And so the compromise was to take a smaller helicopter. I don't even know what the hell the thing was, but it was
a BO-105, Dale.
There you go. Thank you. But
I think it's the one nicknamed the Scorpion, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It certainly did not match up against in the view of, you know, in the visuals. It didn't match up against the Apache longbow. It looked like the Apache could just swat it out of the air. So we had to then come up with something that made it special. And there was missiles that they were thinking, you know, homing all the way missiles, and a particularly a mercenary pilot that was flying for the drug cartels and all that sort of thing. So frankly, it was never what I wanted it to be, what I intended it to be. And the Army, God bless them. I mean, they took us down to Fort Hood, Texas, where one of the aviation brigades was that was flying the longbow Apache. And we got some check rides and other things, which was great fun. But I was worried about this movie. You know, what the hell are we going to do here? And how is it going to appear to audiences that we've got two behemoths facing off in midair? We never did get there. And we had a British director by the name of Green, who, you know, frankly, just wanted to see shit explode. And he didn't care much about the rest of it. So it was a fight all the way through to try to you know, and Tommy Lee Jones was excellent in the film. I'm a big fan and a friend.
Well, you worked with him previously.
Yeah, I'm a pal of Tommy Lee. So you know, we were trying to make this something that it simply could not be, given the script and given the availability of things. But the Army was very good to us. They showed us all over Fort Hood and flew the helos for us, and took us. Then we went to Arizona to one of their test ranges that they have in Arizona, and we did some exciting flying there. And we had
actually, when I was watching the film last night, I recognized some of the area there, and I'm like, because, you know, if you didn't know that, I grew up in Phoenix,
yeah,
and loved living down in the Southwest. And the minute I see Sonora cactus, I'm like, that's Arizona.
Where you are, yeah,
yeah.
Well,
But, it sounds like it was a Charlie Foxtrot from the beginning, though.
What's that?
It sounds like it was a Charlie Foxtrot from the beginning.
Oh, it was, and I'm surprised. Actually, truthfully, I'm surprised we actually got it made.
And not only that, you got Disney co-producing.
Well, Disney bought into it later on, which gave us a little bit more money. But it wasn't the money that we needed; it was the story that we needed, and the story just wasn't there, in my view. The Army was great; they did everything we could ask. We did a full outside loop in an AH-64, which I didn't know they could do, but apparently they can. And it was fun. We got to fly some of their simulators and that sort of thing. But in the end, the Army looked great, and Army aviation looked great, I think. But the story just never was there. And then, you know, they complicated the whole story, as you pointed out. They complicated the whole story with the on and off love affair between Nick Cage and Sean Young. And you know, I argued about that. I said, look, why do we need this?
They wanted a repeat of Top Gun. Is really what it was.
Yeah, and it was
that Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis thing.
Yeah, and the whole thing was distracting. And what I did like was that, and you can help me out here. There was, at that point in the Apache technology, there was a helmet that they were wearing that was slave to the weapon systems on the bird, and that was really interesting.
Yeah, as I recall, and I'm curious about this too, Commander, that the eyes control the weapon and the head controls the flight, right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
help us out here.
How you're able to slew the weapon system, and how you're going to direct it. So you have the gunner in the front seat, you have your pilot in the rear seat, commanding the physical flying of the aircraft. Both can go back and forth. Both can change out weapons to engage. So and remember that the Apache, it's an incredibly interesting aircraft, because the Apache was the answer to an Air Force RFI, a request for information, a request for proposal, and the Army put out a request for information, a request for proposal that was answered by the A-10. But because of some foolishness between the Army and the Air Force, and I have a foot in all these camps, Dale, because I was an Air Force guy that went to Fort Rucker for helicopter training.
Right.
And could never understand why the Air Force wasn't flying some Apaches to do some of the missions that we had, and why the Army wasn't flying fixed-wing aircraft. And there's a whole bunch of historical crapola that's worthy of a movie of itself. It'd be pretty boring, except for about 20 people beside myself who would really like to watch it, about the stupidity about how we do that. But the early on part of the Apache, the way that weapon system worked, it was bridging from analog computers to digital computers. So there was a huge breakwater at that point when it came online. Advances made in that helicopter have had huge impact to a multitude of weapon systems.
Yeah, obviously. And the aspect that I found interesting was I began to talk to the pilots and the gunners that were flying these things. And I said, well, is there any problem with this? It seems like, as you say, a huge leap in technology. He said, well, it's a bitch to learn to use it.
Right.
Because
well, the big thing is they weren't using NVGs. They were using a integrated visual infrared system that projects up onto that lens of the helmet, which also allows them to but as I was saying, that particular connection is now key to weapons like F-22, F-35. They're going away from heads-up displays. They're putting more onto helmets, and this was the kind of foundational system that came out. There was even talk for a while that they weren't sure how they were going to split the two roles between the cockpits. If you're going to have career front seaters and career back seaters, much like you have in fighter aircraft, where you have a weapon system or a radar interceptor officer in one cockpit and the pilot in the other. The Army, I think, did a great job working that out. I think they did a phenomenal job with bringing the Apache. The other thing that I will always give a huge pat in the back of the Apache is everyone said it would never work. It was just too intensive. Its logistics trail was too intensive. And when it went to Desert Storm, it did an absolute phenomenal job. In fact, it with the refinements that came out of there to where the longbow is today and its forerunners. Anything that would have put it against the Hind, which was the absolute bogeyman of the 80s and early 90s, because it's a flying tank. It is the epitome of Soviet/Russian kind of approach to it. It could carry its own troops. It could carry its own munitions inside it. It really is an incredibly tough helicopter.
Yeah,
and
that's really what I wanted.
Amazing.
I wanted that helicopter facing an Apache longbow.
Absolutely.
And
it would absolutely ate its lunch every day of the week.
Just 2 years earlier, they had attempted that with Rambo 3.
Right.
And they took, I think it was a Sikorsky, and modified it.
Actually, it's a Puma. It's a Puma helicopter.
It was a Puma.
And what they did, they
modified it to
look like
a
an A model. And that A model Hind has what looks like what we call the greenhouse cockpit on it. And that was envisioned when the Soviets first brought it out to have two pilots and actually like a navigator, third person in the flight crew. So the Puma actually flew better in its ability to maneuver. The Apache is, the Hind is an extremely capable aircraft, but it doesn't maneuver worth a dog. And it's got an incredibly weak rotor head. And the only reason I know much about that is one of the missions that I ended up flying was simulating Hind tactics when I was in the Air Force. And we flew 53s for that particular mission, H-53s, and we had to limit our capability to make it an accurate portrayal of what the Hind would look like.
Yeah.
You couldn't exploit the full capability.
Well, I wish they had given you something like that, Skipper, because if you had had something like that, because they could have done the exact same thing.
And that was always a vision. That's always what I had in mind. And I knew going in, if we couldn't get a Hind or something that would convince people it was a Hind and that sort of thing, that the denouement, the final conflict, was going to suck, like a big Hoover vacuum cleaner. So this is not going to be the payoff that we need here.
And I'd seen something akin to that before with Blue Thunder, because Blue Thunder was versus a Scorpion again, which was idiotic because they mounted fucking 50s on it, twin 50s. I'm like, you wouldn't put that on a Scorpion. Are you? This is where you correct me on something, because
yes, you could put twin 50s on the OH-6. You called it the Scorpion. It was actually AH-6, OH-6 that they used in Blue Thunder.
Exactly. And on top of that, because I know what the experience was, because Don and I talked about it, was they tried mounting 50s on Hueys, and it damn near shook it apart. They had mounted on both sides of the fucking deck, and it just shook the entire crew. It would just rattle them. And that's why, I'm like, on an even smaller helicopter, I just thought that was asking for trouble. But you also said that they could do that.
Yep. And you put 50s on the Cairo Warrior. They had the capability of mounting it. Some of the gun technology changed. And one of the other things was the 3-barrel Gatling gun concept that was used on the 50 cal. There's a General Electric version of that 50 cal as well. Right.
Okay. Anyway, I'll keep it plain, but I just wanted to touch on that because I remembered this conversation between you and me.
Well, in Blue Thunder, that was an OH-6, not the BO-105.
Okay.
And it could put a pretty big gun pod on it, and they do put Gatling gun pods on that would be of that size.
Really?
Yeah,
That thing would handle a 50?
Yeah, it's just remember though, when you're putting a 50 on it, how much ammunition you're carrying, how it's if it's going to be recoilless or how it's going to disperse its round energy. 50s were nestled 3 and 4 in some fighter airplanes in World War II. So
I know what they can do to a Huey, and it shakes the shit out of it.
Well, it all depends on how you mount it, and it all depends on the how much you're going to carry for it. And that was an Alouette that they used for Blue Thunder. And I talked to one of the pilots who actually flew it in the movie, and he said that was an absolute dog. The creativity, what they had to do in scene cutting for flying to make that look the way it did, because of all the add-ons they put onto that aircraft.
Right.
But that is an Apache wannabe. The way they lined everything up, they unmercilessly copied from the.
I'm so annoyed at myself right now because Dale's wanting to say something and I didn't catch it.
Army to make that look capable of what the Army was developing for the Apache.
Yeah. And of course, the Apache had been around, I think, for 2 years or a year when it was still in testing, right? I think 80.
I think they were just starting to field it when that was coming out together. But I mean, its concept was pretty well known, and obviously the Marines were now starting the recapitalization of the Huey Cobra. Their whiskey models were starting.
The hand-me-downs from the
at
Army.
that point. They hadn't even brought the Z model up, the Zulu up. So you had a lot of influence going on in both of those. Dale, one thing I wanted to bring up that you said, there's two things. This had to be one of the most, knowing you and knowing a little bit about the work that you've done, because I am an absolute geek when it comes to accuracy of military in movies. And I can explain a funny story about how I got to actually get to the epitome of my own personal journey on this. This must have been extremely difficult to keep your sanity going through it, to keep it on track, and to get something that you wanted your name and your personal work to be associated with. But you did set a standard. You forced, I think, from this movie, one of its greatest legacies is that I think a lot of services paid attention to this movie and said, okay, you know what? We really do have to have the full story if we want to make it work, if we really want to make it more than just entertainment, but to tell the right kind of story.
Well, that's right, Cobra. And that had all been sort of prompted by the success of Top Gun and so on and so forth. But certainly the Army at this point, when we pitched for their cooperation and a thing, they understood it. General Thurman absolutely understood it. He said, look, if this comes off well, it's going to be great for us. And I knew that, and I wanted it desperately to come off well for the Army in this particular thing. It's the reason, once I realized that we weren't going to get behind to face off, and we weren't going to see the incredible dogfighting capabilities that good sticks in a helicopter can actually do, we weren't going to see a lot of that because we simply didn't have the enemy, the bad guy. But I thought, well, look, where else is there something? And this brings me back to this helmet system situation I was talking about. As I spoke to the air crews, they said, well, listen, the helmet thing is difficult to use. It takes a lot of practice, and you gotta. It's counterintuitive sometimes what your eyes and your head want to do, and you got to work on it. I said, well, there's the answer. We can make a B story here about Nick Cage's character, who's having a hell of a time with this and is about to wash out of the program, and he gets saved by Tommy Lee's character, who's an expert stick and figures it out. And so we began to ask what the real problems were and how you use it and so on and so forth. And we invented this problem. We didn't invent the problem. We wrote it so that Nick Cage's character was having this problem. And by doing so, we explained, how a great helicopter mentor and pilot can help you through that sort of thing. And General Thurman and the Army loved that situation. So we were able to get that. Unfortunately, it kept getting interrupted, as we said earlier, by Sean Young and the whole
love story. Yeah,
the whole romance angle. But we did get that much in there. We never did get the final fight. We never did get the final denouement, Apache Longbow versus Hind 24 Alpha, whichever one it was, whichever version it was. And so it ended up that in this smaller, less capable helicopter carrying some fairly capable missiles, the bad guy is chased by Nick flying an Apache Longbow. And what you really see is some incredible flying, but you don't see the final face-off between the two behemoths, which is what I envisioned.
Now, going back to the beginning, you said that somebody came to you with the idea for the story.
Yeah.
Who was that?
It was two retired Army officers. By the name, one was Step Tyner and the other one was John Swenson. They were both light colonels, and had Tyner kind of thought he was a screenwriter, and Swenson was a businessman and understood financing and that sort of thing. So they came to me with this thing and pitched it, and then I helped invent the story, and it wasn't anywhere near the story that they envisioned, but it was the only way I could get Hollywood producers to paying attention to the concept, because it was all Deus ex machina. It was the big machine saves the day. But they came to me, and I appreciated it, and got them all screen credit as a story by and that sort of thing. But it was a fight. Even at that, one producer in particular, I won't mention him because he pisses me off regularly, but one producer just absolutely refused screen credit. I had to go to arbitration with the Writers Guild to get the credit squared away for who actually came up with the story, which was me and Swenson and
Steiner. Yeah.
I might mention that not only have I never written another screenplay, I've doctored a lot of them and helped a lot of them, but from the get-go, I'm just not that guy because I will kill somebody.
I will tell you though, you wrote, because I wrote the first script for City of Fire.
Yeah.
But my script was based off of the actual incidents of that day. Whereas you went in there after we had our meeting and you took the basic premise of what was in my script and you did a platoon with it, where you took all those other things that happened during that battle over the 2.5, 3 months, and you put it into the one day. And I'm like, I just kind of like shrugged with, yeah, that script is a lot better than mine.
That's called script doctor, Gerry. The business of coming up at the whole cloth with a concept and fighting it through the financing and all of everybody's got to pee in the soup. Every cook in the kitchen has got to pee in the soup, and the next thing you know, you're in this agony. And I decided, I've got a more valuable and more productive thing to bring to movies than sitting here, on a keyboard and trying to conceptualize and invent these things. So the point of all of this is, it's the last time I did it. I said, that's not my milieu, that's not my bailiwick, and furthermore, it'll make me crazy. So I just went to straight advising and doing script doctor, fixing stuff that people needed.
And you've worked on a lot of scripts, including I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. I'll let it out if you tell me to, but you script doctored that Spielberg series, sci-fi series with the alien invasion.
Which one?
As I recall, I forget the name of the show now. Falling Skies. You script doctored the pilot episode.
Yeah, that was typical me. I'm the camel that gets his nose under the tent, and so I was originally asked to do some script doctoring, some help with the military subject of this science fiction film science fiction series called Falling Skies. And as I began to do it, I said, wait a minute, there's a role here for an old guy, who knows how to work on the camera and that sort of thing. And so as I script doctored it, I began to write myself into the thing. And that was fun. But that's an example, Gerry, of I didn't come up with that whole cloth. The other folks did, and I just came in and saved it.
You tweaked it, you fixed it, and you added that stuff. Now there's another one. I do want to bring it up because I'm very proud of the work I did on this, and I keep these with me all the time.
Oh yeah.
No better place to die. My dog tag and the coin I helped design.
All right. That's the second one that I've created out of whole cloth. And I've been fighting that for almost 10 years.
Never give up on it. Never give up on it. It will happen. I believe it will.
And I'm looking around for money. It's that with what things cost today to do a movie like No Better Place, which is a World War II 82nd Airborne sort of thing, a fight for the bridge at Lafayette during D-Day landings. I got the concept sort of sold based on Band of Brothers, and I wanted to do for the 82nd what Band of Brothers kind of did for the 101st. And so I sold that concept, and it's still going through imagination. Because to do that film properly in today's cost is $50-60 million. And getting that raised on a World War II film with all the other problems that Hollywood's got right now, it's been a tremendous fight. I have stayed true to the concept. I know what the concept is. I know what the story is. And I'm not going away from that. Although I have changed the script, I think there's at least 8 versions of the script out there now. The story is the same. The characters are essentially the same. But I've had to noodle it. And I had to put a romance element in it and a number of other things.
Oh yeah, that was not in there when I storyboarded it.
It's in there now, and it has to do with a female French resistance fighter. But whatever it takes,
Oh, she was in the script. She was in there. I remember her. I drew her. And that's what I did, by the way, Commander, is I was the storyboardist. I did some production art for it. Yeah. But I don't know if I ever told you, Skipper, there are 3 scenes in that story that I know are true. That when I was drawing them, I had to get up and walk away a few times because I got so emotional just drawing it.
It's a good story, and it deserves to be made. And I think, if I don't die first, somehow I'll get that bastard made. And it'll be the second time I've actually conceived and written a film, which I said I wouldn't do after Firebirds.
Right. But this was a passion project, in my opinion. Now, going back to Firebirds, you worked this up from, after working with the 2 gentlemen, Tyner and Swenson. And they're retired Army. Were they Army Air? What were they?
I can't remember exactly. I think Tyner was an aviator of some sort. I'm not sure. Swenson was not.
And you start working the script, and you took it to the 2 producer friends of yours. Yeah. When did it get serious, as far as really getting money and the energy started to build up?
I think probably when I began to explain the story as the 2 behemoths the Warsaw Pact and the Apache longbow and so on and so forth clashing in midair and
Yes,
doing
Rocky.
essentially
What is it? Rocky 4
One of them.
in the
Four
air.
or five.
It should have been Rocky 4 in the air against the
But I think it got
Gulf War.
serious. It got serious when we began to talk about that concept, and I began to explain some of the things that I had learned about the Apache longbow and what I knew about the Mi-24, and it was and the fact that Top Gun had done such money. I said, if you have to do a log line, it is Top Gun with helicopters, and suddenly everybody got serious. But they did the money was always short.
Sure.
Even the Army helping out, the money was always short, and that had to do with Arnold Popeson and Keith Parrish, the executive producers, who were frankly tighter than a popcorn fart. And you just they don't write big checks.
Tighter than a popcorn fart.
And that's what they were doing while we were in the script machination. They were out there trying to raise money from other people to get this thing done.
Dale, my very limited experience in this world, I think a lot of people would love to know how this works. I think a lot of people think, well, you show this to a director, and a director is what drives it. That's usually pretty far down the line how that goes. You've got a producer who takes an idea that's sold on it. Now, obviously, we've said Top Gun a million times, and Top Gun completely just twisted everything on its head because the Secretary of the Navy at the time saw this as an incredible opportunity to really highlight and make a very substantial recruiting drive out of it. And I know the Army saw the same thing, but it sounds like you caught the attention of producers who weren't really so interested in the story beyond this, this very megalithic contest, this Titan versus Titan contest. And I always go back to the movie Get Shorty, and I've been listening to you, and I keep thinking about the scene where Travolta and I can't remember Gene Hackman are sitting in the kitchen and they're talking, and Hackman goes, "Well, that's what I do. I
Harry Zim. I love Get Shorty, dude. I fucking love that movie, dude. I love that you brought that up.
Funny flick.
Yeah, it is.
Deuce motion pictures, and you've got 3/4 of a story. You've got an opening, you've got a kind of a middle part, but we need something for the ending, and they're talking about what's going on. And I don't think people realize that. There's a commercial aspect.
Sure, there is. And look,
that concept, that idea has to capture the attention of people who grab the money and start throwing it against it.
Look, I get honestly about 4 or 5 letters with conceptual. This is a great movie. I did this in Iraq, and this is a movie, and you need to make it. They were clueless about the concept. But the business of taking a concept, a story that's in your mind, and going and pitching it to producers at one of the studios. Look, the studios don't make movies. They just don't. They distribute movies.
Right.
And independent producers are the ones who initially pay for the script to be made and so on and so forth. And then they take it to a studio to see what they can do to get a distribution deal. And movie making has come down to, at this point, what's called packaging. If you've got this concept, you've got this great story that's in your mind, and you know that if you could just get somebody to listen to you, the problem is getting somebody to listen to you, especially when you start throwing around figures like $30-40 million.
Sure.
So the way the game is played at this point is packaging. You need an A-list actor, or a couple of them, as insurance to sign on and sign a piece of paper that's ironclad says, I will do this. And then you need an A-list director, for the most part, who will sign on and say, I will do this. And then you start to get into the lower levels of producers, who are line producers, the guy who manages the money during the shoot, so on and so forth. He has to have a record that says he can deliver. And so that's really hurting cats. But once you get all of this under one umbrella, if you're able to do it, and it's very difficult to do if you don't have a track record to start with.
Right.
And that's a reason it costs so much and takes so long to get a simple idea turned into a movie. But that's the way the game is played. And the reason the game is played that way is because of the amount of risk. Look, showbiz, movie making, or television making for that matter nowadays, is the biggest crapshoot in the world. No question. And to improve the odds, the deal is you've got to figure out what are audiences like? What do they need? What would they be interested in? So you don't want to go with a story that isn't somehow in that milieu, because that gives the money guys reassurance that this might work. But audiences are fickle and extraordinarily fickle, and everybody knows that. So you may be talking this great game about this concept you've got now. Everybody's going to love it, and this is ripped out of today's headlines, so on and so forth. And the producer guy who's got the checkbook sits there and says, "I don't know, man. Oh, what happened if this?" Nobody wants to spend any money,
sure,
without some sort of insurance or assurance that they're going to get that money back. And you got to triple it, on opening weekend, triple the expenditure on opening weekend to figure you got a hit on your hands. So all of that goes into making a movie. getting a movie made. Making a movie is the simple part, really. It's getting the movie made, getting somebody to say, okay, I buy this, I get it. Here's some seed money, go out and get me the insurance, get me the actors, get me the directors. And if you're Joe Shit the Ragman, Rudy in the rear rank with a rusty rifle, who's got this great story from Iraq, and you come to me and say, okay, look, isn't this a great story? Yeah, it's a great story. Absolutely great. Now, what the hell do we do with it? Well, you make a movie. Wait a minute. This is how that works. There are many, many slips between the cup and the lip. I mean, to do this story for you, Rudy, it's going to take me $30-40 million. Where are we going to get that? Well, that's the studio will give it. No, wait a minute. They're not even going to talk to me until I've got all my ducks in a row. Can you, Rudy? Do you know the ducks? Can you go in there and get Tom Cruise or somebody else? Can you? Well, no, but no, I can't, and I won't. So it's thank you, really, Cobra, for asking that question, because it's that difficult. It really is.
I have one follow up to you. This is the only question I brought to the interview. So now you have another compounding factor in all this magic going on in these motion pictures, these movies. You have direct to video, direct to streaming now, which is, the independent folks still require all the things you talked about. Independent, if you were to do any of these movies and go through the independent, ultimately they have to hook up to some kind of major studio distribution in some format. They have to have that allegiance or connection. How much is that complicated what you're doing for work? Because ultimately the thing I want to squeeze the last part of it in is talking about accurately getting uniforms and insignias and tactics. That's the thing that Firebirds will never really truly be appreciated for. The accuracy that the Army brought to flying the aircraft stands the examination now today. They didn't put all kinds of crazy stuff in there. The maneuvers that they did were capable of being done by the airplane. It wasn't sleight of hand. And that's the kind of thing that always drives me nuts. But what about this independent and this kind of change in the competition added to the system?
Well, look, the big market nowadays is streamers, Netflix and HBO and Showtime and so on and so forth. They're the markets. They're the filmmakers. But they make them for their outlet, which is cable television or pay-per-view television. An independent, an indie, is cheaper, and it's going to show it. It's going to be cheaper because you don't have all the gear that and the CGI and all that sort of thing. Indies can be made and are being made, but the market in which they're sold, the business of the old video stores and so on, so that's gone. So if you make an indie and the indie is halfway decent, you'll sell it, but you'll sell it to Showtime, Hulu, all these sort of guys, and you're not going to make your money back. You're not going to make you might break even and may even make $1 or $2, but you're not going to get rich doing this. So those are generally, indies are passion projects. Indies are things that people have wanted to do for years and years and years, and they found an angel. That's an old Broadway showbiz term. I mean, somebody who's willing to write the check and take the chance on you. They're there and they're out there and they get made every day, but they don't get any recognition. They don't get the big splash open release and that sort of thing. So that's not where you want to go if you want to reach a huge audience. Now, theatrical, look, I don't know. It used to be that movies had several what are called price breaks. There was the initial opening in theaters, and then it was sold into for a debut on network television. Price break 2. Price break 3 was it was sold into one of the streamers. That's price break 3. Then it began to be available in the hotels, and it began to be available in it's all pay-per-view stuff, available on airlines and so on and so forth. So you had each of those price breaks, and at each one of those, you stood to make a little money, get back what the $30 or $40 million that you expended on this thing. The big thing was always the theatrical break, and you had to do well. You had to make triple your money on the opening weekend and so on and so forth. That is really no longer the case, and whether the big theatrical movies are ever going to come back, I don't know. It's all about audiences. Are we satisfied with our home entertainment systems that are 90 wide, and is that good enough? And is the sound system good enough? Or do we really want to go for that theatrical experience? Do we want to sit in the dark with strangers and eat popcorn and watch a movie? That used to be the absolute epitome of motion picture production.
It's and a great society too. It was a big deal to go to the movies.
Sure.
But we're seeing right now, because you and I talked about this before. I'm going to go ahead and stop it there because I kind of like to close out talking about this interview. And then I will be broadcasting the entire interview at normal speed sometime this week. I'll share the link with you, by the way, Cobra.
Thanks.
Or as Don calls you, Double D. Or
no,
double
Charlie
double
Deuce.
C. Yeah, Charlie Deuce. That was it. Charlie Deuce. I love that. Charlie Deuce. I hear the word deuce and I think I got to poop. So what the deuce? But anyway, What was your takeaway with that interview with him?
Well, personally, to be able to sit down with someone like Dale, and I'm looking. You can't see. Well, let me pull it down. Like I'll pull it so you guys, the audience, can see it. It's not real easy to see. That's a picture of James Gavin. If you saw flying scenes in movies up into, he was the sheriff's helicopter in Bad Boys 2 with me. Lifelong hero, former Army aviator. He did the aerial, what they would call aerial stunt or aerial coordination work for a lot of major motion pictures. Incredible pilot. So the chance to go and work with him, I had no idea I was going to meet him when I went down to do the work. Was kind of the same thing I had with Dale. I mean, I've seen and heard him for years. So that is great. So personally, it was very, very special. The second part is, as I have there, an evangelist for military accuracy. He's tried hard always to do the right thing. And when he's forced to make a compromise, he makes the compromise bend as much as possible to the right stuff to go forward. So much like I've been benefit because of KGRA bringing me to Don or Decker, that got me connected to you, Gary, Gerry, whatever your name is. And here we are with Dale. Pretty unique, pretty special. And I thought it was a great interview because for folks that are interested in what they're watching, what they're consuming, or interested maybe doing this for work or interested in trying to present an idea, filmmaking is, and especially in the United States, is an absolutely fascinating historical topic to look at, just where it's at. And Dale has really cut a very interesting path in it. So it was a real privilege to sit with you and to meet him and do that interview.
It was. And by the way, I want to tell you why and how we met. In 2006, I was asked to watch a movie by Sidney Furie. I'm sure you remember that guy's name.
Yep.
He did some good films in his time. One of my favorite films that he did was the movie about the poltergeist. God, I forgot the name of it. But where the woman is being abused and tortured by an evil entity. And it was a good film. And he worked on some other movies too that I liked. But he directed this film about a combat medic in Iraq. And a buddy of mine said, hey, man, you got to see this movie. So I went and I got a copy of it on Blu-ray or DVD, just DVD, and brought it home to watch it. And I was so fucking angry. 20 minutes into that movie, I never finished it. And I'm like, I told that guy, you don't fucking understand me at all. A combat medic, a volunteer army combat medic bitching about his job in front of his troops is not a fucking realistic film. Because the morale of the troops around him is his job.
Right.
It's not just to take care of their boo-boos. He's also there to keep their morale up, make sure that they're drinking fluids, all that good googa-mooga bullshit. And the movie is so stupid, and it was supposed to take place in Iraq, and I could tell it was shot in Canada. It doesn't even fucking look like the Middle East. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I was aggravated by this film. And I came up with this idea. I said, I would like to hook up with some other fellow vets and start pushing Hollywood to make better war films or films about the military. Because I know Dale Dye can do it. I need to contact Dale Dye. So I was on break at work. I went over to the grocery store to pick up a sandwich, and I called and I talked to them. And they actually picked up the phone and had an hour-long conversation with me. Very first time I talked to them. And we fell in love with each other because we were all passionate about this thing. And sure. Dale Dye was one of my business partners in the venture we called Charlie Foxtrot Entertainment. And if you're military, you know what I just said. Clusterfuck Entertainment is the name of our company. And everybody loved it. I worked with New York Times bestselling author John Del Vecchio. And we're still close friends to this day. And we've talked and entertained the idea of trying to start the company back up again. because Hollywood's still putting out crap. You know, they just
Well, I'm gonna throw one name out because I feel like I always have to honor his hard work. Michael Bay, the director of Bad Boys 2.
Michael Bay made a mistake.
Did an incredible job listening to me and helping me get the scenes that I was in to accurately portray it correctly. And what he did in 13 hours was probably one of the best movies on the war on terrorism, what went on in Libya. And he got absolutely slammed by Hollywood because he didn't go with the party line. He went down with an accurate story. He wasn't trying to slant it one direction or the other. He laid it out. So I have a lot of respect for Michael Bay.
Before I talk about Michael Bay, I wanted to point out, I'm friends with Boone and the guy that was in the battle at Benghazi.
Right.
And friends with Sarah, who wasn't there, but was stationed there. She was away somewhere else in Libya at the time. And she's the CIA target analyst that was there. And then she was gone when the battle took place. But I've actually sat down and talked to Boone at length about it. And he and I have even talked about playing Call of Duty together, which is fun because I love Call of Duty. But
I as well.
Yeah, you play too?
Yeah, Black Ops is the one I'm kind of hooked on these days.
I love Black Ops. I have my Black Ops. I have.
In fact, it's Commander Cobra KGRA. I'm really hiding.
Fuck you. I'm going to look you up. See, I'm on BattleNet, which is through the.
Oh yeah, you got like the super duper. I've got 3 squirrels up here in New England that's running my internet, so I can only get so far on the games.
Yeah, it sucks, dude. I haven't gotten the 3rd game yet. I haven't pre-bought it because I like to wait until the game comes out so I can hear how much it sucks.
It sucks.
I heard it was bad. Say
Yes,
something else, Martin. This is your chance.
239 gigabytes of space. A campaign of a boring campaign that lasts only 4 hours.
That's like Halo. Was it Halo 3 was like that? A really short campaign. Their focus was to give you a game, but they wanted to have something for the Xbox Live crowd.
Right.
I got to be honest with you. The new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I haven't finished the campaign. I just went straight to playing it on live. I like to pit myself against another human being. That's my thing. It calms me down killing people virtually. Knowing that I'm faster than other people.
Touched your feelings like that.
Show me on the.
I would like to say.
Show me on the doll where your feelings were touched.
And to be with Martin and John, it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
But
it's great having you here.
Meeting Anima was the real treat of the day for me.
Oh, thank you.
Now you know why I love her so much. But by the way, the one film that I have an issue with that Michael Bay was producer on was Pearl Harbor, because they made the same mistake that they made with Firebirds Romance.
I tried really hard not to blow my case when I was talking to him, but that movie, the 3-hour sneak attack on a love triangle with some planes and ships naked.
Well, they even do 30 seconds over Tokyo. It's like it's just Pearl Harbor. Just tell the Pearl Harbor story. And there were 2 real pilots.
Well, they did the Battle of Britain as well.
Yeah, they got that in there because Ben Affleck wants to get into the fight. Yeah.
Right.
I got to tell you, I was so irritated with that movie. And yet, the actual Pearl Harbor battle is the best take I've ever seen. It's very accurate.
It's Star Wars.
But it's Star Wars, yes.
It was
laden
Star
with
Wars.
Too much effects. It's just one mistake. And I forgive him because 13 hours is one of the
Transformer
best
movies. He did a great job. Everybody.
Yeah, my buddy Zach Ward is one of those soldiers.
Yeah.
The redhead.
Yeah.
The Jinja, mate. The Jinja. He's a buddy of mine. He's been on our Dangerous Military Nerds. I'm so irritated that I still want to do that show. And I think I'm only going to do it once a month. And Julia, Dale's wife, has entertained the idea of doing the show with me once a month.
Good.
That would be great.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me? I wouldn't worry about interviewing anybody. It'd just be hearing me talking about war and the history of it. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on, Commander.
As always,
I know
sir.
we are not going to be able to get you back on until probably next year.
Yep.
But I will get you back on, and I'll make sure it's worth your time too.
Maybe we get lucky in December, Fingers crossed that some craziness in this world of ours settles down. That's what's really driving a lot of
what I'm going to do is I will get in touch with you, and if I'm able to get a hold of you, I want to do Tora
Okay.
for December. We did Midway.
Right.
A few days.
I want people to see the movie Devotion, because the payback after Tora is that we're going to do the movie Devotion.
All right. So I'll definitely add that for December and see if you can join us.
All right, brother. Be good. And thank you very much for sharing me with your audience.
Oh, man. It's great having you, Commander. Just a great guy. Commander Cobra, former military aviator and fucking awesome stunt pilot for film. And he still does stuff, man. This guy's still
Get
out
ready to
there
go
doing
flying
real
right
shit.
now. In fact, that's why I'm jumping up.
Yeah. Well, go be safe, brother.
Thank you. Be well.
I'll see you later.
Great meeting you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
So I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. I will release the full interview with Dale Dye. I'm sorry I couldn't get the whole thing in there, but I also don't like it. I had to speed it up in order to get what we got. But Dale is such a great guy, and I'm just so lucky to have him in my life. I really lead a very blessed life. I don't make much money. I'm a starving artist, but I have some amazing people in my life, but not you fuckers.
Oh, we know that.
You know,
Talking about your celebrity friends. We're not
just my
cool
celebrity
enough.
friend. I love you guys. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to the chat. I'm grateful to you guys. Monkey says I live a cursed life. I said, here's what I would say to that, man. You were aware going into that, so you weren't cursed. You fucked up, and it happens. It happens. But you do some great stuff, Monkey, and it's you're awesome, whether you like it or not. We love you. We miss you when you're not around. You were missed. I would love to see an accurate movie about the M1 Abrams tank. I learned more about that tank playing the video game Armored Fist too. Wasn't that also called the fisting?
Oh my God. Here goes our monetization.
You threw the word fist in, and immediately it's where my brain went, was fist.
Mind
That
right
tank
out
was
of the
really
gutter.
fisting it. But I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. I'm really looking at stuff because I want these. And by the way, the website situation is really awesome. Martin, what are you thinking? Because you get the email with me. I want to make sure we always have a record.
Yes, I received all the suggestions. Did you want me to list some of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have received suggestion for the bridge as reimagined, which we already have in the pipeline. We have received suggestion for Red Dawn, the 84 version.
Yep.
We have that is twice. We have two for Red Dawn, and Take the High Ground from 1953.
Yeah, and I already have a copy of that, so that's good. It's a film I already have in my hard drive. Military Monday. Simply go to our website. Can you share the link, or do you want me to share the link? I'll share the link. Here it is.
Yeah.
That's the link to our page. You can submit anything here. We're going to have submissions for everybody's shows. I'm working on it slowly because it's a lot of work. I've already got a full plate. But Red Dawn. So
monkey.
you put your name, first name, last name, email here, and this is required. And then you put the title of the film, year that it was made, and I will decide if it's a film, because I do have that in here. That let me enlarge this. Let me engorge this so you can read it. It says Gerry makes all final decisions if the movie is submitted is one that he wants to cover. If your title is used, the person submitting it will be given credit on that specific show when we do it.
Yeah,
But
Gary's going to decide. We have no
if you
say.
send me some crazy shit that I fucking hate, Like, hold on a second. Let me find that movie. I'm going to show you that fucking movie that pissed me off. Sidney Fury. Sidney J. Fury. He also directed Superman Quest for Peace. Oh my God. Here, is this the one? Is this it? No, here it is. What a piece of shit movie. This is it right there. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. American Soldiers.
This is a terrible, terrible fucking movie. It's non-representative of any fucking person I ever met in the military.
It still got 3.5. That's surprising.
That's because there are idiots out there that love crap.
Yeah.
There's actually a fan base for Uwe Boll movies. That German
What?
piece of shit. Terrible filmmaker. You don't know who that is?
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking to you. Animus said it's something that made it sound like you. Seriously, Martin, you fucking respond to me like.
Well,
I'm
my
not
response is
asking.
the second. My response is the second title.
Oh, I know him, just the way you pronounce his name didn't ring a bell. It's Uwe.
Don't
Uwe
care.
Boll.
Don't care. Don't
You said
care.
his first name like
I
his
really
name was
don't give a
Yui,
shit if
and
I
was like,
fucking.
no.
I don't care if I pronounce it correctly. I cannot stand this guy. He thinks that the way to defend his movies is to get into a boxing ring with people who hate the movie. I'm like, yeah, you won the fight, but your movie still sucks.
Right?
God, he makes terrible films. How he gets some of the named actors in his films is the one that shocks me.
Money?
No, just this is just proof of what I talk about with Hollywood is they don't pay attention. That's how J.J. Abrams kept getting work. He's garbage, and yet he kept getting work. Yeah, everything Uwe Boll makes sounds like a fucking fake movie. It's not being made. That's not real. Yeah, it's real. He takes video games and turns them into movies.
Oh.
Blood Rain, Alone in the Dark. Hold on, let me find some more. House of Evil, Rampage. Oh my God. That was actually the closest thing to a good thing he did was Rampage because my buddy Zach Ward's in that one. And it's a halfway watchable movie. But what's that one game where you become mutated in the game? You become animals?
Far Cry.
Far Cry. He did Far Cry. God, he did so many bad movies. He did one about an island. I forget the name of that one.
Dead Island.
That's it. Yeah. Terrible. He's a terrible filmmaker. Oh, he exploited German tax laws to make his films. That's why he stopped. That's interesting. I thought he stopped because people would stop giving him money. But finally, somebody learned. Don't give that man money. He will make garbage. But here's the thing. In his defense, every single film he made a profit. Not a huge profit, but made a profit. So he can just he doesn't need to get in the ring with me. He just needs to point that out. And I go, yeah, you're right. You're right. Film turned a profit. Still garbage. Oh, what were you talking about? Deleted? Oh, the medic film. No, it's for real. It was a piece of shit. American Soldier. God, what a horrible movie. I also stopped being friends with that fucker for recommending that film. I can't be friends with people who recommend really bad movies to me. I've unfriended people over it. See, and I'll tell them they think I'm fucking around. Okay, you're telling me to give my personal time away to watch this movie. Because if it sucks, I'm not going to be happy with you. It's like when my stepson came home. Hey, Gerry, you want to hear a funny story? I said, yes, I do. And it better be funny or I'm going to punch you in the chest. He was an adult. I will punch you. You will be punished physically for giving me something not funny. And so he was very careful to always make sure that I wasn't close or that it was actually funny.
That sounds like a good strategy. Make sure you're not close.
I told you what I did to him one day. Zoe was there. It was so funny. He was a wigga. I hate using the word because it represents the other word, but that's what he was. Because he had a black best friend. And he wanted me to drop him off at his house, and his best friend and I got along really well. We were very chummy, and we'd both make fun of him because he was trying to like do the rap talk and just like, oh my God, stop it, dude. You're born in Missouri, Springfield area. Where'd you learn to talk like that? Dumb fuck. I love him though. I love him. He's a really good kid. Good heart. He's a dad now. But anyway, he stood at the door of the car, and I kept trying to say, close the door. He wouldn't listen to me. So I threw the car into gear while he was standing there, like his back to the car door, standing in the open door area of the car. And I knocked him down, and he went rolling. And then he turned to me, what's up, dude? I said, shut the fucking door. So he's like, oh my God, did you hurt him? No, he's fine. He was a Wiggum. Yeah. He was a Wiggum. Yeah, Rampage is about as good as he got. Yeah. And it was only the first one. I watched the second one, and I didn't get 15 minutes in. I had to stop watching. But the first one's, it's actually pretty good. And Zach Ward does a great job in it. And I think that's what saved him is Zach Ward. Zach Ward's a really good actor. And by the way, if you didn't see him in the sequel to Christmas Story, the official sequel, he plays himself. Well, he plays the same character, Scott Farkas. But he doesn't show up until the end of the fucking movie. And he has, in my opinion, the best scene in the movie. Because the whole movie, what's his name? The kid, the main character's name, I forget his name. Bobby?
No.
Oh, fuck, I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, he's terrified. He's heard that he's become a cop or something, and he's terrified of running into him. Finally, he runs into him. And the guy helps him. And at the end, he says, man, what happened between us, it changed me for the better. I became a better person because of you. And I'm just trying to pay it back. And I'm like, what a great fucking ending. Scott Farkas is a nice cop that helps him on his worst fucking day. Everything's going wrong for him. No. It's the other one. No, not that one. Just look up Yui Bowl.
Ralphie Parker.
Ralphie. That was it, Ralphie. Gonna put your eye out, Ralphie. Love that movie. Not a big fan of It's a Wonderful Life, but I am a big fan of Christmas Story. Darren McGavin is so great as the dad. He was the fun side of my dad. Not the dark side, but the fun side. But that's it, guys. It was great having everybody here. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Be prepared. I will be putting the video out this week of the interview between Dale Dye and Commander and I. It was a good show. You guys enjoy it? Enjoyed stuff going on?
Yeah. I mean, I did not enjoy having to look at that movie again, but...
I did not enjoy the movie.
You could at least have warned me that it was going to be bad.
I didn't remember it as that bad. I remembered there were problems, but I didn't remember it as that bad. And then when I watched it with you, I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. Oh, this is so
I could tell by your reactions, yeah.
Well, I became a better writer and a better critic of what was good and bad in the 90s. But I saw that before I went in the Army and just, oh, well. But anyway, that's the end, my friend. Yeah. It's time to go.
Robin Kitty keeps telling me to end it.
Food time. So we'll see you guys.
Not.
Don't forget, Patrick has his show tomorrow, The Chief. And what movie are they doing tomorrow?
Mulholland Falls.
Mulholland Falls with Nick Nolte. Good movie. Good movie. Jennifer Connelly. Great film. All right. Well, see you guys later. Hope you guys tune in tomorrow for The Chief. If not, we'll see you Friday. And fuck you, Cat.